All right, Shalom. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Racha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone who teach well and rule well. And Shalom to the elect. This is the brother Zakar from the Great Millstone Montreal branch. And the topic I want to go into is the topic of envy. Okay? Envy, which is an emotion, and it is one of the most evil emotions that there is. Okay? Which, if it is not rebuked, okay, it can ultimately lead to destruction, okay, destruction, ultimately death. Okay, we've seen there's many examples in the scriptures where envy led to the envious person's death. Okay, we have one that comes to mind off the top of the head is Dathan, Corey, and Abraham. Okay, they envied Moses' position. Okay, you have the wicked scribes and Pharisees and chief priests. Okay, they envied Yahushua's position. Okay, Cain and Abel. Okay, Cain envied Abel's, you could say his position, because it says that Yahweh Bashim Yahshua had favor unto Abel's sacrifice. Okay, all right. So this emotion ultimately it leads to your destruction. Okay, all right. So let's go first into the definition of the word envy. Okay, it says in the Google dictionary, it says it is a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Okay, so that also goes into covetousness. Okay, which that's looking at another man's possessions and desiring his possessions, which coveting is in the law, not to covet. Okay, we can start off with that in the book of Exodus 20 and verse 17. It says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's." Okay, because every man has their gifts, okay, which come from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, and you have your own gifts. Okay, you have your own purpose. Okay, and you have to respect the role that was given unto you. Okay, and really honor the gifts that was given unto you by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, and not to covet or envy another's position or his belongings. Okay, and rather you are to praise Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, so let's go back to the definition of envy. Okay, it says here, desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attribute belonging to someone else. Okay, to be envious of. Okay, all right. So yeah, this is it's a deadly emotion. Okay, that's what the scriptures say, that through envy of the devil came death into the world. Okay, let's see, which is referring to Cain. Okay, it's in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and 24. It says here, "Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it." Okay, right, which I mentioned Cain, okay, but we can also speak on the serpent, okay, which was a man with serpentine characteristics. Okay, he deceived Eve to try to deceive Adam to make him fall from his position of excellency, right? So he was envious at Adam. Okay, so what he did is that he deceived Eve, which she sinned by hearkening unto him. Okay, and deceiving her husband by taking part of tasting of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, and therefore Adam sinned. Okay, and he fell from his excellency, and death came. Therefore death came. Okay, okay, all right, because he disobeyed Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, see, disobedience ultimately leads to death, man. Okay, and that's what happened. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil, right? So the devil was envious of him. Okay, it was envious of Adam. It speaks of that in, I believe it's in the book of Ezekiel. Okay, it talks about the different trees that were envious of the tree in the garden. Ezekiel. Let's see, garden. Yep, there you go. All right, this is Ezekiel 31. This is a parable speaking of Adam and his elevated state, because Yahweh Shem Shai was dealing with Adam. Okay, so he was superior to all the Adamites and all the nations that were there. Okay, in this time. Okay, so Ezekiel 31. I'm gonna go straight to the point. Okay. Slovakia. Yeah. Ezekiel 31 and verse 8. The cedars in the garden of the Most High could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches. Nor any tree in the garden of the Most High was like unto him in his beauty. All right. So he was superior. Verse 9, I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees, now the trees is referring to people, all right, parabolically, okay, so that all the trees of Eden, okay, that were in the garden of the Most High envied him, okay, all right, and especially the serpent, okay, that's why he found ways to make him fall from his excellency, okay. Now, these Edomites, they have that same serpent style spirit, okay, towards the Israelites, okay, because the Israelites, which are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are scattered throughout all these nations, they are superior to these other nations because they are the sons and daughters of the Most High, Yahweh, okay. So therefore, these other nations have an envy towards the Israelites, okay. And they want to see us fall. Okay, this is Psalm 62 and verse 4. It says here, they only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. Okay, they bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly. Salah. All right. Now that goes into our enemies, starting with these Edomites. Okay, they only consult to cast us down from our excellency. Okay, from our state of superiority. Okay, from our state of excellency. Okay, because truly we are superior. Why? Because we have Yahweh Bashim Yahushua in us. Okay, that's what makes us superior. Okay, all right, the breath that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua give us, the spirit that He has given unto His people. Okay, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that He has given them. Okay. Right. So now let's go to the Book of Lamentations 2 and verse 15. It says, "All that passed by clapped their hands at thee. They hissed and wagged their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, Is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, We have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we look for." Right? We have found, we have seen it. What do they look for? The downfall of the nation of Israel. That's the day that they look for. Okay? All right? Because they have always been envious of us, man. Okay? All right? And that's a terrible emotion. Okay? It's a terrible emotion. That's the emotion that these other nations have toward the nation of Israel. Okay? All right, so we were speaking earlier of Cain. Okay, let's go into the book of 1 John. That's 1 John 3 and verse 11. "For this is the message that ye heard from the beginning, that we should love one another," right? So we're not to be envious of one another, but to love one another, all right? That's when we truly know that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai dwells in us, when we love one another, okay? When we have the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, okay? Because Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is light, and there is no darkness in Him, okay? Who abides in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai shall have no darkness in him. So he's not going to have any hatred towards his brother. He's not going to have any envy towards his brother. Verse 12 says, "Not as Cain, who was of that wicked one." All right? Or he had that wicked spirit in him. He had that serpentine spirit. Okay? Okay, and slew his brother. Right? He killed his brother. "And wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil and his brother's righteous." Okay? So he was envious of his brother Abel. Okay? All right? And that led to his destruction. Okay? That led to his destruction, and the destruction of Cain. Okay? Which came back in reincarnation as Esau. Okay? And he's the son of perdition. Okay? And he's going to be destroyed, man. He's that man of sin. And he's going to be destroyed. Okay? Because of that envious spirit that he has in him. Okay? Okay? Verse 13. "Marvel not, my brethren, if the world hate you." Okay? Wow. Hey, they hated Yahweh Shai. They hated Yahweh Shai without a cause. Okay? They were envious of him. Okay? They were envious of Yahweh Shai, man. All the miracles that Yahweh Shai did, they were envious of him. Verse 14, "We know that we have passed from death unto life, because we love the brethren. He that loveth not his brother abideth in death." You know, you abide in darkness if you don't love your brother. Okay? If you have envy towards your brother, that's death. Verse 15, "Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer, and ye know that no murderer hath eternal life abiding in him." Okay? "Hereby perceive we the love of the Most High, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren." Okay? Or you got to be ready to lay down your life for your brother. Okay? No matter what. Okay? Well, that's the mindset that Yahweh Shai had. Okay? That he has. Matter of fact. Okay? Okay? So yeah, we are just simply love the brother. You know, honor our positions, and be grateful for our positions, be grateful for our possessions, and give praise to Yahweh Shem Shai for everything that He gives us, man. Okay, for us and even the brother. Okay. Let's go to the book of Proverbs. 27:4. Okay. It says here, wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? Okay. Who's able to stand before envy? So that speaks of, the the intensity of this emotion, man. Okay. All right, which is to be rebuked. Okay. If you have that bubbling in you, you have to rebuke it. You can't let that fester. Okay. That's an evil emotion, one of the most evil emotions. All right, so I read that again. It says, wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? Okay. It says that envy shortens the life. Okay. Sirach 30 and 24. It says here, envy and wrath shorten the life. Okay, so it leads to your destruction, and carefulness bringeth age before the time. All right, so envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness bringeth age before the time. Okay. All right, so those are fleshly emotions, man. Earthly scriptures talk about that, man. Okay. Those are not those are not godly emotions. Okay. Yeah, James 3 and verse 14. But if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descended not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. There you go, devilish. So that's having the characteristics of the serpent in your heart, man. Okay, that's of the world, man. That's worldly. This wisdom descended not from above, so it's not of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? But it's earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work. Okay, so it brings confusion and wicked works, man. Evil works. Okay. The works of the devil. Okay. All right. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work. But it says here, but the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruits of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. All right, those that dwell with Yahweh Shai. Okay, and ultimately that leads to life. Okay, that leads to life. Unlike envy, which shortens the life. Let's go to the book of Job 5 and verse 2. It says here, for wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. All right. All right. So, I wanted to touch on that real quick. This wicked emotion of envy. Okay, which has to be rebuked. Okay, because it is not of the Most High. Okay, it is earthly, it is worldly, and ultimately it leads to your destruction. It leads to your death. Okay. All right. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. Okay. Let's end off by giving all praises, honor, and glorification to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Hakudash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Green Millstone, and shalom to the elect, Yahweh Bahashem Shai Barakatam.